Hey, how about it, race fans? Richard Allen of motorsportsreport.net coming at you with the richest rambling here on this March the 16th, a very cold and blustery March the 16th here in the East Tennessee area. And I was just going to take a few moments in this little ramblings piece to kind of recap what I was fortunate enough to get to see here over the weekend. We had two World of Outlaws late model series races in East Tennessee, one at the Volunteer Speedway up in Bulls Gap and the other at the Smoky Mountain Speedway in Maryville, Tennessee. One thing that allowed those races to happen, the weather was absolutely phenomenal over the weekend. I mean, the temperatures in the 70s and 80s, and just came in from outside here in Seymour, Tennessee, just a few moments ago. It is snowing so hard right now, and the temperature's in the mid 30s. It's really coming down. We have done a complete 180 on the weather from what we had this weekend. So very fortunately, that good weather was on the weekend, and this bad weather is coming right now when it doesn't get in the way of any racing. But like I said, it was a great weekend of racing at both Volunteer and Smoky Mountain with the World of Outlaws. Saw Mike Marlar win on the first night on Friday night at Volunteer Speedway. Then Bobby Pierce got the win on the second night at Smoky Mountain. The crowds in both cases were just outstanding. Both the grandstands were filled. The pit areas were teeming with people all throughout. So it was great to see such great crowds. Of course, that weather no doubt helped contribute to that, but also the fact you had quite a bit of star power. You had all the World of Outlaw regulars there, but then you also had some drop-ins. Hudson O'Neal raced, as well as Ricky Thornton Jr. Jumped in there, and I already mentioned Mike Marlar. He was in there as well. So that never hurts when it comes to drawing crowds. The racing was not only outstanding, but at Bulls Gap is crazy. We had two flips take place. You know, I've seen, of course, cars flip before, late models flip before, but had two of them on the same night. Had Kyle Strickler flip over in a heat race accident that he had. He and Ethan Dotson were mixing it up, and it wound up with a flip. And then Jimmy Owens in the feature flipped. He was driving a car for Vic Hill, and on the initial start of the race, everybody got all kind of jammed up there. And as we'll see with late models, once one gets turned sideways and another car gets the nose up under it, it'll wind up turning it over, and that's what happened there. So some great racing. You know, as far as the individual achievements that happened over the weekend, Mike Marlar really needed that good run. He had a good weekend overall. He not only got the win up at Bulls Gap, but he had a top 10 at Smoky Mountain. There'd been some struggles coming in, as he said in an interview I did with him. Hopefully you've seen that. It's linked to either my YouTube, the motorsportsreport.net YouTube page, or the Facebook page. It's on there. I think I also posted it on Twitter. But he talked about how he had speed out at the Wild West Shootout in Arizona, but just bad things happened in those races. And then went down to Florida and Georgia during speed weeks, and just wasn't finding the feel that he wanted with the car. So they came back and then put everything together, obviously, on Friday night at Bulls Gap. He had a great run there, took the lead very early in the race, and then held on to win all the way, lead all the way pretty much after that. So a great showing by him. Another guy, of course, that we know that we expect big things from every year, and that's Bobby Pierce. Pierce had he got a podium finish at Bulls Gap, and he was extremely happy with that because he considered that was like a win because he has very little experience at Volunteer Speedway. He said coming in, if I got a top 5, I was going to consider it like a win, which interviewed him as well, also on the Facebook page and also on the YouTube channel. So the motorsportsreport.net Facebook page and YouTube channel, so you can check those out. So he was just happy to have that solid finish there, and then goes on to Smoky Mountain and picks up the win, which kind of more on that here in just a bit. But he was able to get the win after an accident knocked out the front two runners, Brandon Overton and Chris Madden, in that race. But like I said, more on that later. And then another guy I was going to talk about, Ricky Thornton Jr. He started off at Wild West Shootout, not driving his regular Kohler Motorsports ride there, but he got a win there. But then throughout Georgia and Florida, he just wasn't quite what we expect Ricky Thornton Jr. to be. He wasn't up there in the qualifying or the heat races or fade in the feature or something like that. But that last night at Golden Isles, I believe he got a podium finish. I believe he was second there, and he has obviously carried that into this past weekend, finished second or two podium finishes, I should say, at Volunteer and Smoky Mountain. He was second at Volunteer, and I think third at Smoky Mountain. But he looks like he's kind of rounding into form as to where we expect him to be. I talked to his crew chief, Anthony Burrows, and we talked about how things seem to be coming together like we expect from Kohler Motorsports and Ricky Thornton Jr. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him in victory lane in the very near future coming up. Also, Nick Hoffman, he came into the weekend leading the World of Outlaws points. He had a really nice, solid weekend on tracks that he may not be all that familiar with at Bulls Gap and Smoky Mountain. Of course, this is a guy who's scored just piles of wins in a modified, but I did an interview with him, which I'm going to publish a story on coming up later this week, where he talked about how he's now reached the point where he feels like he's almost as comfortable in a late model as he was in the modified back when he was winning. And we talked about, could this be one of those, a real true turning point year for Nick Hoffman? And I think that it's probably going to be that we're going to see him pile up some feature wins. I think he's already got 3 for that matter now. Another guy I want to talk about is Dale McDowell. Dale went down to the Volusia for that early Sunshine Nationals they had back in January. Struggled a little bit and realized that he was having some problems with his eyes. He couldn't see as well at night as he'd like to be able to. Had a cataract surgery, had a little procedure done to remove cataract, and parlayed that into 2 top 5 finishes at Volunteer and Smoky Mountain. So it turned out to be very good for him, a very good outing, very good weekend, kind of getting back into the swing of things with Shane McDowell racing there. And then Chris Madden also looked really good in that Infinity race cars by Wells that he was driving. Had a really nice run up at Volunteer. He showed speed both nights. He qualified really well, heat raced real well, but he finished, I believe, 4th place up at Volunteer, and looked like he was definitely in contention for the win. And I told you I would get back to Brandon Overton and Chris Madden here. They're racing for the win at Smoky Mountain. Then Dennis Erb wound up getting spun and was just sitting broadside in the track as they came along. Overton was directly behind a car that he was trying to lap, and that car darted to the side all of a sudden, and then there Erb was just sitting there prone in the middle of the track, and Overton just slammed into him. It was one of the hardest crashes I've ever seen on a dirt track. If you follow my feed on X, I posted a picture. Also, just within the race story about Bobby Pierce's win, posted pictures of what Overton's car looked like afterwards. It was a scary moment there, how hard he hit and all that. It looked like he had a win in hand, or if not, he and Madden were going to duke it out for the win. It looked like the last few laps. But when those two got eliminated, that opened the door for Pierce to get the win. And then Overton was one I wanted to talk about as well. He struggled in the year. He got some wins there early on at Screven and all that, but where he struggled when he's raced, like at Golden Isles, for example, he'd be fast at some point during the night, whether it be in qualifying or heat racing or whatever, but just couldn't seem to carry that speed through the feature. But he was definitely doing that at Smoky Mountain. He did not race it at Volunteer. But he was definitely doing that at Smoky Mountain and looked like he could very well be on his way to a win until that terrible-looking crash took place there from all indications, he was okay, but still, nonetheless, the car was badly damaged afterwards. But it was, Overton, I'm sure, was happy to be able to carry that speed throughout the feature. But anyway, that's just kind of a quick recap of the World of Outlaws race weekend in East Tennessee at Volunteer Speedway and at Smoky Mountain Speedway. Before I check out on this issue, I wanted to just talk for a moment about how just terribly sorry and saddened I was for the events that happened, the World of Outlaws sprint car race over the weekend at Kennedale Speedway down in Texas, where a safety crew member unfortunately lost his life responding to an accident on the track. And I just so badly hated to hear that. I had my thoughts and prayers for that family, and also there was another safety crew member who was significantly injured. So hopefully that person will recover as well. But just a terrible situation to have happen. It's one of those things you always know. Racing's dangerous. We all know that, as was demonstrated by the Herb and Madden and Overton wreck at Smoky Mountain and the flips that we had at Volunteer over the weekend. But to have safety personnel to be injured or even killed, it's just awful reminder of how dangerous racing can be at times. But anyway, on that sad note, this is Richard Allen of motorsportsreport.net saying I will see you at the track.